Are we ready to start, Tara? Yeah.
Yes, perfect.
Well, it's really interesting if you hark back to next week, how they were very much saying that we're all coming to a crossroads in decisions we're making. And also they pointed out how what is happening outside our front door is a bigger version, a mirror of actually what's going on to various degrees inside us. And over the weekend, what was going on was this division again, a division of peace, but also this huge rising of anger. And it's apparent that actually people don't know where to hang it. They don't know where to put it. They're going to protest. They don't know what they're protesting about. They're fighting. They don't know what they're fighting about. It's just this global rising of things people have been angry about. Now, it doesn't matter where you are in your understanding and spiritual journey, you will magnetize to yourself anything or anybody that is going to trigger any anger left in you. And it's vital to then think, wow, I have just triggered somebody else's anger, or they have just triggered my anger. And rather than look at the subject matter, because actually that's really quite irrelevant, what's so important is to look at our own anger. And particularly yesterday, there was a real division. I went to a walk with my daughter around Petersfield Pond, and there was this sense of, oh, it's okay here. It's all nice and peaceful. Everybody was respectful, smiling, laughing at distances. You wouldn't have thought there had been anything wrong except that lovely piece of everything's okay. Come back and watch the news, and they're literally fighting a cause they don't know what's fighting. I went to see some other people in the afternoon and triggered, or somebody's anger was triggered, but I was in their presence while that anger was triggered, and it triggered anger in me. And I thought, well, that's interesting. One thing that I had personally thought I had removed all my residue energy of was anger. But the fact that I was in the presence of anger meant that there is still anger in me somewhere, because there must be. It is a mirror. So the whole trick, if you like, about moving through this process is to say, wow, look at the anger in me still there. And if you want to go into the past and find out what it's all about, do so. But so much more beneficial to say, do you know, I really don't want to carry this anger anymore. I choose to let it go. And that's the only way we can advance with anything, is to look at the behavior we have now and decide whether it's the behavior of the person that we are and want to be. And very much so, this is tied in with this anxiety thing, is that most spiritual journeys, as we've said before, begins with some sort of traumatic episode. That traumatic episode will have triggered anxiety, fear. It could be anger, it could be frustration, it could be just grief, devastation, it could be all sorts of things. That these traumas that we've had before are just dormant now within us. And so I've slightly lost my throat because they're taking us higher. And what they're saying is that actually when we sit in the anger, we're really, if we concentrate on the subject matter, we not only, so here we are, and 1 minute we're thinking we're fairly comfortable and fairly happy, and then something triggers the anger in us, and we start being angry about a subject or no subject at all. But of course, then what happens, that comes straight back at us and gives us more things to think about that make us angry. And we're in this perpetual circle again. And we'll come across more things to make us angry, because that's how the universe works. What this weekend has shown is that people's anger is rising, and it's just spitting. So if we are anywhere near it, we'll get splattered by it. Do you understand? But the exciting thing is that if you do get splattered by the anger, it is one more choice that we have, one more chance we have, another experience we have to look at ourselves and say, am I hanging my anger anywhere at all? Am I hanging my anger on my boss who's let me down? Am I hanging my anger on a relationship that isn't quite what I wanted it to be? Am I hanging my anger? Where am I hanging my anger? And do I need it anymore? Do I need it? Particularly if we're angry with other people because they're not meeting our expectations. Actually, what we're saying to ourselves is, I'm not meeting my own expectations. It's so much easier to blame the person we think isn't meeting our expectations and therefore making us angry. Why can't we have the respect that actually we either do magnetize to their angry personality or we don't? And this week I've had several clients who are fearful of losing something, losing their job, losing some, just fearful of what their thought patterns have got them tied into. And where anxiety lays is in the thought pattern. And the moment we have an anxiety thought pattern, particularly that we're going to lose something, we start vibrating a really, really low vibrational output. And all that can come back to us is a vibrational output of more anxiety. And what's happened over the years, as I say, particularly with spiritual people, because we had the trauma and we had the anxiety in the first place, we start off in the morning at a certain level of anxiety before we get out of bed. We wake up in that's our normal. So anything that comes in that makes us slightly more anxious, it just adds to this vibration leaving our body. And we eventually can't actually get ourselves out of it. We get stuck then in what I call the pity pool or the mud pool of the situation, rather than how we're feeling about it and working out why we're feeling the way we're feeling about the situation. Do you understand what I'm saying here? We have some nods if you do. So you can have an argument with a spouse, and then the whole of your spouse's and your conversation would be about the subject matter, rather than saying, well, actually, my expectation of you and my expectation of you, and can we agree with our expectations, or should we just go our own separate ways? Because this doesn't have to be a row and a split and an argument. It can just be, I'm no longer wanting to match this level of vibration coming out. But we're doing it to ourselves. So what's happened over the years since our trauma or since our breakthrough or whatever's happened, we have sat ourselves in a certain level of anxiety. Now, what's happened now is we're safe there. We're safe there. People have labelled us there. Somebody will say, oh, we'll take the stairs because I know you don't like the lift. Now, you don't like the lift because years and years ago you decided you don't like lifts, and you've never questioned that. Your belief is now you don't like lifts. And people around you will say, you don't like lifts, do you? We go on the stairs. So you've carved your own who you are, and other people carve it with you. And it may not be who you are anymore, but we just don't question it. Oh, I don't like going out. It's like that suddenly you don't like going out. That is your dominant vibration. But how many people are sitting here now saying, oh, well, this isn't me. This isn't who I am. This isn't who I used to be. This isn't who I wanted to be. All of that is causing this anxiousness of, I'm not who I want to be. I'm not who I thought I was going to be. And I've tied myself up with all the decisions on who I am. So suddenly you're a depressed person, or you're an anxious person, or you're somebody who can't go out, or you're somebody who has to be treated with kid gloves because you have a temper, or whatever your personality has developed, your ego has developed in this self-protection act. So you've protected yourself and you are protected. So if you are seen as somebody who needs to be treated with kid gloves, then actually you might find there's a part of you that prefers that than to stand up and count yourself responsible, because it's nice being looked after. It's nice somebody says, oh, I've thought about you and we're going to take the stairs and not the lift, for instance. So you might have got over your fear of lifts 3 weeks ago, but you think, oh no, I like that attention. I like the fact that person's, and you use the stairs rather than say, actually, that's not me anymore. The person I am is a person I was before I didn't like lifts. Before I didn't like lifts, I did like lifts, so I didn't know about lifts. So there was a nothing there about lifts until I made a decision about lifts. And now I changed my decision about lifts and they're fine. Do you understand? We've got to go these steps. We've got to go back into what these beliefs are in every single step of the way. And whatever it is we think we are losing, what is the problem with that? What's the problem with that? On the news, they're talking about these statues. Oh, take away the statues, we lose our identity. Do we? Do we really? What is it if somebody takes something away from you that you lose your identity? We are being pushed and pulled and triggered, and we've put ourselves in this safe anxiety bubble, and people have kept us safe in here. My friend said to me the other day, oh, I know you don't like coming out, so I'll come over to you. And I thought, I haven't got a problem with going out and just choosing not to. But do you see, she's carved something that was me 5 years ago. I didn't like going out, but now I'm fine going out. But that's carved. So you carve your own anxiety level, what you can and can't do, and then other people agree with it. And before you know it, it's not just your belief. It's you've made it up of who you are. And this crossroads they're talking about, that they were talking about last week and this week, is this crossroads of saying, is this really me? What is me? Who am I? Am I somebody who has been labelled depressed or labelled this or labelled that? Am I really that person anymore? Have I been diagnosed as anxious? Am I on tablets because my nervous system can't cope? We need the nervous system. We need it, but we don't need it to be on red alert all day long, every day. But we perpetuate our own red alert and we keep it there. And we then magnetize ourselves to other people who are also on red alert about something. It doesn't matter what the subject matter is, we are magnetizing ourselves to someone. So yesterday, going out to the park, I was obviously in a very peaceful vibration, because the vibration around the park was just so peaceful. Coming back on the road, there were some angry drivers, and I thought, gosh, there's anger in the air today. By the time the afternoon came, I met an angry person, and the whole thing, do you see, the whole thing perpetuates. Before you start, you go, oh my God, I knew I didn't want to go out there, there's too many angry people. No, there was angry people when something triggered my anger. So I'm still not at peace with other people being cross. Okay, let's work on that. Let's look at that. Can you all feel how tight we have got ourselves into what we can and can't do? And we've become so comfortable with that, and yet we're so damn uncomfortable with it. Because anxiety is showing that we are not in alignment with our heart, our body, and our soul. We can't be, because if we are, we're in this lovely, peaceful situation. When one's out of alignment, so if you've got your body on red alert, your mind is frantically adding thoughts to keep your body on red alert. Your soul's over here being lovely and peaceful and kind of going, well, why don't we just leave that? Why don't we just go for a peaceful walk? Why don't we just have a look at what's going on here? It's time to redefine who you think you are. Are you this nervous person who stays indoors and doesn't go out and doesn't do this and doesn't do that, and it's safe in their own little world? Or are you a person that says, that actually isn't me, that's just who this who I've become within this stuff, and I'm going to be choosing to allow some of this to go. Now, that's not to say you don't respect your own anxiety, because it's there for a reason. It's there to protect you. And I don't believe you face your fear and do it anyway, because that's saying, I have a fear and then I'm going to punish myself by push. Sometimes that's applicable, but more often than not, it's not applicable. I have a fear of jumping off a cliff. I'm not going to go and do it just to get over my fear. I bet every one of you in this room has a fear of something. You don't need to go and do it to get through your fear. Some people do. But in this instant, we don't. But that isn't fear that's stopping us doing it. That is a calculated decision that you prefer not to. It carries a very different energy. Very different energy. So you can say to your anxiety then, no, you're right. You were right to raise your vibration and flood me with this warning signal. Because actually, if I think about jumping off a cliff, my heart will start racing, my thoughts will go, oh my God. And you say, yeah, okay. But I've really given this some thought and some decision, and I'm choosing not to jump off a cliff, not because of the fear, just because it's preferable not to, weigh up the odds. Now, there was a question that came in before this, which is, how do we protect ourselves from the virus? Well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. If you're locking yourself up in total fear, then you're not going to go out anyway, but you're going to use that as an excuse for who you're not, or I'm not going out because of that. But if you weigh up the odds and you think, well, actually, there was thousands of people getting together last weekend, thousands together this weekend. If it's going to raise its head again, it's likely to be over the next week. Do you know what? I think I'll settle and stay in here. That is a very different vibration. You're having a conversation with yourself, which is a grown-up adult conversation about a situation. It is not sitting here going, well, what if? Oh, and what if? And what if? And the ego loves it. Loves it. Because all the time you're in what if, and I can't. The soul and the soul energy has very, very little chance of coming through and getting in here. And this is where, if we start saying and really looking into ourselves now and saying, well, who am I? Who am I? Because we've had to change our perception of who we are. When you were younger, who you were would relate to what job you did, or who you married, or what car you drove, or what house you lived in. You know now who you are. It's none of those things. So we've been through that loss, if you like, and then you go through that and then you say, well, yes, and then I can enjoy because I like a nice car, a nice house, and you bring it back in, but it's not your identity. You bring it in because of who you are. And it's really interesting with this pandemic, I can never say that word, pandemic, is that you've had those people that say, right, what can I do? Who am I in this situation? And there's those who've used all of it to absolutely just confirm it's a fearful world out there and I'm not safe. You are safe. We're always safe. We're always safe. We just don't think we are. So if you're walking down a dark street and you start putting out the vibration that you don't feel safe, that it's a scary neighborhood and that you don't like people walking near you and everything else, you are going to immediately vibrate that to yourself and you're going to say, oh, good, that's confirmed. I don't go out at night. I don't go down dark roads. And you stop yourself doing something. And by the age that we all are, we have all really made our world very, very small. And as I say, with this virus that's going on, we have those that have literally continued life and enjoyed the journey. And we've had those that have sat and said, I cannot enjoy life until this is over. And when it is over, there's nothing to enjoy because it's all so frightening anyway. And they're so stuck in the fear, and it's your own personal fear, and it's self-perpetuating, because the moment you have a thought about something fearful, you've magnetized yourself any thoughts in the area of your thoughts that bring them all together, just like a search engine. You put fear of virus and you put something that triggers your fear of virus, suddenly all the fears of the virus come back up again, and there you are swimming again in fear. And the only way you can keep the fear down is just to stay still and do nothing. This is a fantastic time to find out more of who we really are, not just spiritually, but who we are in our physical human body. Are we somebody who respects ourselves as well as other people? Do we give ourselves as much time as we give to other people? Do we study ourselves as much as we study other people's behaviour? No, we don't. We don't. And again, we've said this before, it's because we're not taught to. But we have to turn that round now. Because if everybody was standing safe and solid in their own vibrational, loving, peaceful, content output, there would be no war. There would be no unrest. But this universe doesn't understand what our unrest is. It doesn't know if we're unrest because there's racism going on, or unrest because you're worried your car's going to break down. The vibration of unrest is going out from you. It's hitting the universe and it's coming back down. Now, what we've got at the moment is this consensus of this going on. And unless you can handle it or release it, better still to release it, because if you can release it from your world, you're releasing it for the universe anyway, because you're picking up that energy, magnetizing any energy to it, going on in the same way, and you're letting it go. Ask yourself, what am I fearful of? What frightens me? Is that from an old belief system, or is it through sensibility that what frightens me? Well, walking through a Lions Park with nothing around me, that would probably frighten me. Is that sensible? Yes, good. We'll keep that one then, tick. Walking through town in broad daylight, is that really scary, or have I built up all this anxiousness about it based on other people's beliefs? Wow. If I'm sensible and I do this and I wash my hands when I come home and I will, do you know what? It's really not that scary. But if you find your anxiousness is saying it is that scary, then you look and say, is that a true feeling here? Or is that my thinking trying to keep me in this? This ego does not want to let us go. It doesn't want us to move into surrender. It doesn't want us to move into happiness. It would lose its job. So it's in grief and worry about losing something as much as the humanity is. And this business of waiting here until over there comes back, it just simply can't. It can't come back, because if someone has been sitting in here for 12 weeks now, is it 12, 13 weeks? It's a long time. If you've been sitting in anxiousness and fear, waiting for it all to go away before you can come out and feel better, you've built up 12 weeks of more stuff to be anxious and fearful about. And you're literally putting yourself in a straitjacket. This is an ideal time, because it appears to us that the government have dropped the rope. There appears to the masses that there's nobody actually taking control. There's this sense of unrest because there's no sense of real leadership, because it's time for us to take our own leadership. If everybody took responsibility for themselves as well as each other, it would be such an exciting world. Excuse me. But because we're predominantly human and we're mixing in a predominantly human world, when we get into a human situation, we immediately cut off from here and go into the human situation. And it takes huge amounts of stop, breathe, hang on a minute, to say, no, I'm not having that. I'm not getting involved in this situation. I'm going to calm all this anxiety down. I'm not going to die. I'm going to stand up and say, well, hang on a minute. I don't want to put out the anger to you or the situation. I'm going to let that go. And actually, I'm going to let you, the job, the situation, the dog, it doesn't matter what it is, whatever it is that's provoked and got this anger stirred, you thank that situation and then you let it go. If you're fearful of letting it go, you have something else to look at. What's my fear of letting this go? What's my fear of letting this job go? I might never get another job. Or I won't be able to work myself up in the company like I have this one. All very, very limited beliefs, because you can then say to yourself, is that true? Is that true that I work myself to the top of this company and nobody else would have me at this level? Well, somewhere somebody's told you that, and that's now your new belief. Do you see? And you carry that belief. Whereas if you can say, no, hang on a minute, I need to look at, and we need to get into our computer here and just examine every single belief about who we think we are, based on the little short life we've had now, based on what other people have told us we are. And then we've added to that situation. And we label, I am a nervous person, or I am quite scared, or I am now claustrophobic, I am. And we label the whole of us as that belief system. No, we're not actually. Actually, we are a soul having a human experience that has been crammed into this human body, that has a wonderful system to warn us when we're in danger and when we're not. It's just got out of hand. It's just got out of hand, all of this. There is nothing wrong with being anxious. There's nothing wrong with being depressed. But it would benefit everybody to look and say, am I that person? You're labelled with depression. When I had my nervous breakdown, they told me I was depressed. And I kept saying, I'm not depressed. I'm not depressed. Because then you are depressed. When I went into the hospital for 6 weeks, I met this girl, Sally, and she wasn't depressed either. She had just had a mental breakdown. And we used to laugh and laugh and laugh. Now, within a few weeks, they took both Sally and I individually into the office, and they said, look, you're supposed to be depressed. You're laughing too much. This is a mental hospital. And they asked us to stop laughing because it didn't fit in. Because what happened is that all the other inmates used to come and join us, and we'd have this whole gang of people laughing. Well, in a mental hospital, that's not allowed. You're supposed to be depressed and suicidal and killing yourself. It didn't fit the label. And the fear from the staff that their world was changing was enormous. So they shut us down. They shut us down. Do you see? Even within a little institution, being happy and free and laughing, it was their belief that doesn't follow depression. So suddenly I was told I was depressed. It didn't take long before, oh, I'm depressed. Am I depressed? Oh, I am then. I must be. And you get this label, and suddenly other things to make you feel depressed and confirm the fact you're depressed. And other people say, oh, let's do this for her because she's depressed. Suddenly you're a depressed person. No, I'm not. Actually, the real me is a sunshine person and happy and go and like this. But because of the situations over this little lifetime, it's so easy to become this little person. Particularly if you live with people, because you then shut yourselves out because you don't want their anger and their fear. You learn to adapt yourself very easily into, right, well, I'll just keep quiet because my voice angers them and I don't want to anger them. So you keep quiet. You think you're doing yourself a favor. You're not doing yourself a favor, because you're burying everything about you, and you're telling yourself you're not enough to stand up and say, no, I'm not having this behavior. The same as I told the person yesterday who was shouting at me and said, look, I can't understand or listen to you when you're shouting. So come to me when you've lowered your voice and you can talk to me. We walked away from each other, and 2 minutes later came back and said, right, now we can have a conversation. And all that stuff from that other person and from me disappeared. We dissolved it. Because you come together as a new person, not the angry person that stands up for yourself, because that's the only way you know how to fight. How many people, when somebody shouts at them, immediately shouts back? Or want to shout back, but then don't shout back? Or do you actually say, wow, that's a really angry person, that's interesting, that's quite close into my vibration. Why is that? What's that triggering me? Because we can get this just simply dissolving now. But to dissolve it, we have to trigger it, because if it's been laying dormant in every time something horrible happens to us here, it goes into our storeroom and it gets laid dormant in here. Unless it's agitated, it's going to stay there. It's just going to live and stay there. It needs to be agitated. It needs to be agitated until it comes up, bursts up here. And then you have a clear vision. Say, right, from this point of view, from a higher point of view, do I need to carry this anymore? And then you thank the universe for giving you this wonderful opportunity to look at what bubble of energy you're still carrying, or what belief about yourself you're still carrying. It's such a lovely system if you are not so scared to find out who you are. Because once you find out who you are, you can then bring the whole thing back to you and say, right, who am I as a mum? Who am I as a sister? Who am I as a daughter? Who am I? Am I being the best I can be in all these situations? And again, if you can't, find a lovely, loving relationship within yourself with all the relationships. Have a look at why, because there's something else coming in. Something else coming in. Tara, did you want to say something, sweetheart? Tara?
Sorry. No, you thought I was looking like I was? No.
No?
Sorry about that. No, I was listening with intent.
Oh, okay, okay. We're tired. We've said this before. Old souls working on ourselves, we're tired. If we look at this as just, you know, when you've finished a book and there's that little bit at the end that kind of explains it a bit deeper. What's that called? Prologue? I don't know. Anyway, that bit of the book at the end, that's what we're going through now. Because by now, the advanced party, and that's not hierarchy, that's just literally where we are on the road, if you like. The advanced party are at this moment in time being given so much help from a source energy and those involved up there to keep us, or to allow us to start shifting this. Because if you think about this, if each person was then responsible for their own ball of anger, why they're carrying it, why they think it's necessary to keep hold of it, and then find that it's actually not necessary to keep hold of it, we have a lovely system that lets us know if some new danger comes in. If every single spiritual person in this whole world starts letting go of these balls of anger, can you imagine that the result in worldwide? Because suddenly this person's ball of anger isn't being thrown at this person over here. And that person's ball of anger isn't being thrown at this point of anger. So this vibration of this anger is being dissolved by those that understand energy. We're not just doing it for ourselves. We said we'd come and do it for humanity. We'd come and do it for the planet. We'd raise our vibration. But we need to keep up now. And if you're feeling more anxious this week, or you have situations where you have been provoked into more anger or angry situations this week, it's because the stakes are getting higher. We're being pushed into this new vibration, or we're in the new vibration. So you can imagine being in the new vibration with the old vibrational stuff. We've got this stretch going on. We've got this stretch. We've got the souls of ourselves saying, oh, come on, let's lighten up. Let's lighten up. Yes, there's a virus out there, but if I put a mask on, I put some gloves on, or wash my hands, whatever it is, I know with that protection I'm safe. And you go out there and you smile and you just get on with it. If you choose not to, because the whole of your system's saying that's not a very good idea at the moment, don't go out. But do not lock yourself, allow the fear to stop you going out. That's very different, because this fear of, it's like a snowball. It's going to at the moment it is literally rolling downhill. I watched an interview from a newscaster on the television last week, and day before yesterday, and he actually went up to one of the angry people and he said, what is it you're wanting? What do you want? And this guy just turned away and went back into the fray. He couldn't even vocalize what he wanted. If he could have said, I just want to be angry, that's what he wanted. That's what he just, actually, more to the point, I want to express my anger. I want to be heard. I want to matter. I just have all this energy and I don't know what to do with it. The difference is we know better. We should know better by now. We don't chuck it at someone else. We harvest it ourselves. We harvest it ourselves. But we're more frightened of ourselves than we are of other people. We're frightened of what we're going to do. So we're in this conflict all the time. It's time to say, right, for the next few days, I'm really going to look at the conflict in me. The conflict going on in me. And you ask those above to help you, because if you remember, and it's one of those vital pieces of information, we all have our own personal angels. There are higher angels, and that isn't hierarchy, it's just a higher vibrational energy. You ask and it is given from the angels. They cannot step in and interfere with our lives. But the moment you ask, I talk to them all the time, so I say to them, look, I'm really interested in this. What was that provoked me yesterday? What's that all about? Now, they don't answer maybe straight away, but a little later on, in an hour's time, something will come to me and say, oh, do you remember when? Oh, I see. So that thought magnetized itself to that thought from 20 years ago, and that's come back in there, and that's turned that off, and that did that. Get it? Yeah, lovely. So I can let that go. Yes. So you look at each feeling that you're putting out in the next couple of days with real interest. Oh, I'm sitting here, I'm really comfortable. Why? Because nobody's threatening me, because it's all is this where I want to stay for the rest of my life, or is there something else that I would or I'm sitting here because I'm fearful, or I'm sitting here because I'm just very content? Every day is our life. Every day, if we're excusing our lack of what we're doing through being small, we're going to be very disappointed when we go the other side and go, oh, gee, we could have done all that easily with the angelic help. Because you invite the angels and you say to them, I'm really interested in this. Can you give me some information? Now, they're not going to come down, land in your lounge with great big wings, flapping in beautiful robes and say, oh, let's have a little conversation. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But that's not how it happens, certainly in reality. In reality, you flip the television on and something comes on. You talk to somebody in a shop and they just say something and you think, gosh, that's really, there's something that rings with that. That's how they message you. A friend will say something and that will be your answer. You'll pick up a book and you open it and there's your answer. That's how we get messages through. Of course, as soon as we get a message through, we call it a coincidence, or we say, oh, that didn't really happen. We'll hear voices and we think we're going mad. We don't understand. It's actually, we're conversing until you do. There's so much help to help us shift and lift and get into this higher vibration where our earth already is. If we can do this work for us and we can be here, we can be ready for the next lot coming through, and we can shout from here, if you like, not in shout, we can encourage, if you like. Encourage. How can you be so peaceful? Because you know what? A lot of this stuff doesn't matter, and a lot of it does. You think of the rest and up all this stuff that's churning hundreds of years, this racism, and suddenly it will never get pushed back down again. And somebody was saying to me that they're not arguing for whites against blacks or whites against anything else. What about all equal? What about all being equal? Now, again, when you understand the level that you do, we're all equal anyway. It's just kind of beyond belief that anybody would segregate because of anything. But is there in your ball of energy anything that is still attached to, was your father racist? And so there's no belief swimming in here. Was your grandfather racist, but not your father? And you may have changed your beliefs, but you may still have the old recording, if you like, of your father's beliefs. Do you understand? So it'd be interesting to go into your own beliefs and go, oh, what did my father think about racism? Or what did my father think about being gay? What did my father think? Or my mother, or the one that, whoever's dominant in your life, it could be anybody. But what were their beliefs? And did any of their beliefs actually stick with me? And if they did, is it time to let that go? Yeah. But we don't know until we poke the bear. Do you see? You won't know what you're still carrying until something comes along and pokes it. And when it does, and we go into it, it's game over for a minute. Now, if you have gone in it, like I did yesterday for a little while, come out of it and go, wow, gosh, I just went back in that for a minute. You don't dwell on what was happening. Do you see how easily the ego takes over? Something happened an hour ago, yesterday, 10 years ago. And this is still mulling it and bringing all this in. This is still live. All the time you'll think about it, it is still live in your vibration. So even if you bring up something that happened 30 years ago, the vibration going out, the universe doesn't know if you're thinking about the past, present, the future. It doesn't know. It only knows the vibration you're putting out at any one time. So you could be vibrating something here that you haven't yet discovered about yourself here, that you're still carrying, this ball of information you're carrying. And it's well worth looking at. Well worth looking at. It's well worth coming back in here and saying, right, what's stirring all this? What's stirring all this? This is stirred in me. And you almost sort of get rid of the whatever it is that was there in the first place that triggered you, comes straight back to this. Straight back to this. And if you're sitting in your little world and you've made it very, very safe in your world, I have a little saying in my Dan Says Lou, and it says, I'm safe in my little world. People know me in here. And I looked at it this morning and I thought, that's exactly what they're talking about this morning. You've made yourself safe in your own little world. We all have, haven't we? And that's perfect if every bit of that is through contentment. Absolutely through contentment. I prefer not to get abroad because I'm so content here. Not I prefer to stay here because I'm so scared of going on an aeroplane, or I'm scared to step out the front door, or I'm scared, because all that fear is still being carried around with you. That's why it's very important to make the decision now. I prefer not to go abroad, for instance. I prefer not to go abroad. That's decision made. The vibration of fear can stand down because you're not including that now. You're not taking that into consideration. You have taken all that into consideration and decided you prefer not to fly, or you prefer a holiday at home, or you prefer something else. Once you've moved it into what you prefer through contentment and not fear, you are more of who you are, far more of who you are. And we are all very, very different. So what is exciting and fun for one isn't necessarily somebody else's fun and excitement. This is why it's so important to find our own space, our own peace, but stretch it out a little bit, stretch it out. Because there's so much of this fear and anxiety going on in the whole atmosphere of the world. It's global. Of course it is. We're all one. Yeah. If you put a ball into a cotton wool ball into dye, the whole cotton wool ball gets dyed, not just one thread of it. It all gets dyed, doesn't it? What they're saying is that we're all being contaminated, not necessarily by the virus, but we're very, very easily, if we're not careful, contaminated from the results of it, which is the frustration and the fear and the anger and all of that going on. Do you see? So we're crippling ourselves, not by the virus, but by being magnetized to all the stuff that's provoking in everybody. If we can really say, well, if I have to spend 20 minutes looking at how I feel about something, your ego is going to say, no, we haven't got time for that. We've got to go and phone mother, or we've got to go and do some shopping, or we've got to do this, we've got to do that. You need to be disciplined now and say, no, let's spend 20 minutes just thinking how I think about that. Now, that's why I like the paper, and I think paper is quite important, because you can actually, you're doing something. It's very easy for your ego to distract you if your body's free to do nothing. Do you see? To tell you to get up and do something. Whereas if you're saying, right, I'm going to write down what I feel about this. What do I feel about the situation? So the person that says about protecting myself with the virus, put the word virus, and then respect. I respect that I'm fearful that. I'm respectful that I'm fearful I get the virus. Right, now have a look at that and say, is that the fear of being ill? Is it the fear of dying? Is it the fear of leaving my children or my cats without somebody to look after? Where is the fear of the virus? Do you understand how you can slice that fear up? And then it isn't a fear anymore. It's something to decide on. Once you've detached from what you have decided is fearful, it has no charge on you anymore. It can just leave you. If you spent the whole day from morning to night saying, I love being healthy, I just love being healthy, everything that isn't in your vibration of being healthy can't come to you. It can't come to you. And it's really easy, again, to blame out and say, oh, this is all going on like that. And yes, it is. And it's giving us the opportunity to make some well-informed decisions. Now, we don't know if there's actually even a virus out there, do we really? we don't know anything, which is why it's so important to rely on our own intuition. We have the biggest internet system going on around us at all times, and yet we still go in looking at our little book for information. The universal mind is the mind that created worlds and universes and galaxies and us and plants. It's a universal mind. It is all intelligence. It has all the knowledge of everything that ever was, ever will be, and is now. It can't not. We'll do a whole thing on this one day. Tara and I were saying, when we're going to do this. It is available to us at all times. The moment your mind starts thinking, how do I protect myself when I go out? What am I going to do? How am I going to keep clean? What am I going to do? I'm not going in that shop. I'm not doing that. You start a train of events that will take you into fearful situations. So the moment you walk out the door, all your fears will come true. Like, people will come too close to me, or I don't want to be given cash, and this place only takes cash. Whatever that is, all those fears will come to you, and you'll come back into your own little world and say, no, I'm safe in here. I'm going to stay in here. If from here you start peaceful, you just start peaceful and say, right, I am safe here. I'm safe. The moment I think about going outside, I feel my anxiety. Yeah, don't start from up here and try and go down. Start from down here and work out where it's coming from. Do you see? If you start an anxiety, it's like starting in anger and trying to stop somebody, trying to get somebody to meditate when they're raging. You can't get there from there. But if you start when you're fairly peaceful and say, right, the thoughts of this virus makes me anxious. Do I need to be anxious, or do I need to be aware? The difference is amazing. You can then drop the anxiousness and become aware. The thoughts are going out when all this has been going on, and it's likely to just chuck up again, makes me anxious. Does it make you anxious? Or is that your higher self saying, well, if you don't need to go out this week, let's just not? Do you see? Excuse me, my phone's ringing, I have to ignore it. It's moving anxiousness and fear into decision-making and choice. But don't be fooled. Don't be fooled by it. Don't let your subconscious mind fool you into saying, yes, we can be peaceful about that because that's the decision. And then you look and you think, oh, well, all I've done is kept myself back into my box again. That was a clever little thing to do. What we need to do is say, right, how am I really feeling? I'm feeling content that I've made the decision not to go out today. I'm feeling content I've made the decision to surrender that whatever this job brings or doesn't bring, or whatever this person does or doesn't do, I'm just going to surrender into my peaceful place. And from your peaceful place, if that starts getting you anxious, the moment you start getting anxious, stop, ask yourself, what is making me anxious? Where is that coming from? What is triggering that? What can I do with that? Can you see how, if you catch it on its way up, you can bring it out and let it go? If you allow it to build and build and build and build and build, before you know it, you're in the thing that's making you anxious. And you're going into your thoughts, out of them, into your thoughts, out of them, into your feelings, out of them, in there, out there. Do you understand that? Can you see how that becomes this permanent state of heightened anxiousness? And of course, once we go through our day and we've had other things to make us heightenedly aware, by the time we go to bed, we're swimming in this mess. Now, if we're swimming in this when we go to bed, you can guarantee we're going to wake up with it. So you wake up in this, and before you know it, you're here. And then you're here, and then you're here, and all this is, and you're back into this again, you see? Do you want to live your life like that? Again, that's choice. Or do you want to say, this is who I've become through all my experiences and everything that's happened to me, this is who I've become. But you know what? I've made myself so small that I can't even breathe in my own skin. I'm bigger than this. I'm more than this. Just being comfortable sitting is more than sitting in anxiousness, finding things to worry about. Because that's what your thought process is doing, just finding things to worry about. That's its job. That's its job. You're more than that. Everybody's more than that. You deserve to be able to sit comfortably, peacefully, pleasantly thinking, visualizing. Because the moment you go into visualization, what if this would happen? What if I was calm about the situation? What if? And suddenly your vibration has shifted again. You're out of this. Wow, you're on a different track completely. It's that quick, that immediate, and that important why we start in the moment and not leave it till tomorrow morning. Oh, I've had a bad day, I'll leave it till tomorrow morning. No, you've had a bad day. Sit down and work out, write these words down. Ask yourself, do you need them? What was the bad day about? What was triggered in you? What did it prove? What's it showing you? Do you see? Don't just have a bad day, go to bed in it, and then expect a better day tomorrow, because it's not going to happen. You have a bad day today, you're going to have a bad day tomorrow. However that looks, because the first thing you've done is labelled it a bad day. So look under your list and say, well, what does a bad day look like? Because by looking at a bad day, you can then say, well, I prefer good days. Now, what does that look like? But we're not giving ourselves this time. We're just now gathering momentum for lockdown to be over. We're all doing it. We're all going, the whole of our ego system is saying, oh, good, come on, stand down. Lockdown's nearly out. Now we can decide, plan where we can go, when we can go, how safe is it? Oh, great. Can you imagine? This system is in heaven now. It's totally in charge of what we can and can't do. How about saying, well, let me decide what we can and can't do. What do I want to do? What do I want to do from here? Do you want to go back into your old ways? Do you want to cover your life with other people's lives and problems and stuff? Or do you want to start actually enjoying your own? And that's when it becomes fascinating. Because the temptation to want to get back out, temptation to want to go and heal, temptation to go wanting to keep going out there and not coming in here is so enormous. So enormous. So, are there any questions? Probably not. Everybody just stunned.
Everyone is really taking that all in. That was absolutely fantastic, Wendy. I was just also thinking myself that just like that, I'm getting everything ready. I'm ready to go. So I kind of wanted to. There was a question in my head, and it was something like how to sort of keep that momentum. How to, yes, we're all ready. We know we're getting back into the workplace. How to sort of keep that momentum. You know how that lovely piece where you kind of say, oh, it's just there. Oh, it's not. You know, you put your wish out there.
Oh, I see. So once you've decided what you actually want.
Yeah. And then you go.
How do you keep the momentum of going down there?
Yes.
This is, because you make it exciting. You say, okay, this is what I've put out that I want. And every time something comes in that says, yes, but you can't, now's the time to say, why can't I?
Yeah, good.
Okay,
question.
This is when you're interested in yourself, because otherwise there's so many now that have put out what they want and it's not come in. So they've decided they can't do it because they're not enough to do it. But it's not true. What is true is that we haven't decided we're enough for whatever that is.
Yes.
Whatever we've put out as a desire is always on its way, because that's the way the system works. The more high energy we put on it and excitement we put on it, the more we can bring it, the more we make it better, if you like, but with excitement, you can bring it in further into it. Do you see?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas the moment you go, I don't think I can have it, it isn't arrived, and I've got this money problem again, or I've got this problem again, and I've got my name, whatever it is, you've immediately turned your dial from where it's going down to here. And until you course correct back up there, that dial is still going to keep on going up there, with no exception.
And I suppose that's the thing, you kind of think, I've done all the work, and you keep thinking it's up there. So, i.e., I want the barn. It
Yes.
you keep falling
It's a
back.
ladder, you see.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
ladder.
yeah,
So you put it out up there, and they say to you, right, well, you've got to get through this first. You know, it's like snakes and ladders, just like snakes and ladders. You know, you get to here and you go, oh my God, here we go, back down to the frigging beginning again. And sometimes, you know, when you've done that and you've done all that, and you go right back to the beginning, you think, I can't believe I'm doing this again. And it is so similar, so similar. But you keep your eye on the ball. Do you see? You keep your eye on that, and what you do now is every time you hit that top of the snake, you have a choice whether you slide down and go back again. I mean, it's a really good analogy, actually. Or do you just move one space further, go one space forward, or even 2 steps back? You don't have to go right down the snake. It is a good analogy because it just clearly shows exactly what they're talking about. The whole board game is a game. It's all exciting. It's all to be played. You don't want to open the snakes and ladders and put your thing up there and go, right, I won, do you?
Yeah.
That's not the joy of a game. The joy of the game is starting there and going up and down and up and down and round and round and round and round. However, this is the lifetime, and this is the moment they're saying, right, do you think we've progressed a bit from snakes and ladders? Should we go and play balls out on the lawn, or croquet, or something else that doesn't take you up and down and all this? Yeah. But to do that, you've got to get to here in this comfort space. And to do that, every time you're going up this ladder and you see the snake or feel the snake, catch it. You have to catch it before it takes it over. Before you get on that snake, once you're on that head, there's no stopping. Have you ever seen the snakes and ladders board where the snake is cut in half and says you can get off here? No. Once you start going down, you're down to wherever you came from in the first place. Yeah? Now I'm saying when you've seen the snake's head go, I'm going to take 2 steps backwards because that's more beneficial to me than going 2 steps up to go down that snake. Or actually, I'm just going to step over that snake and go, bugger off. I don't want all that in my life. Thanks very much. Cheerio. Gone. It's gone. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm. Fantastic, thank you. Also, just going to read something from the chat. Just wondering if there's a way with PTSD and looking fully at something can be too much. Just wondered your thoughts on that.
What was that last little bit?
So it's with PTSD and looking fully at something can be just too much.
Yes, yeah. Again, don't punish yourself for it. Just don't punish yourself for it. But you can tease it out. You can tease it out bit by bit. Okay, it's like being up here, again, being very, very angry. You can't go into meditation. You can't go from that trauma there to nothing here. But you can take it out bit by bit. What is actually frightening me is that is that in the now? Yeah, so supposing somebody was frightened of being shot because they've been in a war somewhere, they would really need to say, oh God, every time that happens, it makes me jump. Say one of the kids bangs the door or something. And then you could say to yourself, but the kid banging the door, I can let that memory, I can let that bit go. And you just, you tease it out, you tease it out. Or you go into one of the wonderful systems now. If you go onto YouTube, there's the tapping solution, there's the emotional code, there's the Ho'oponopono, there's a lot of energy systems. There's so much help out there, hypnosis, that you can actually do in the privacy of your own home to shift this stuff and not be frightened of it, you see. But we're all in our own way carrying this post-traumatic stress energy. We're all carrying it to a degree, depending on what's happened and how it affected us. I mean, it could be huge on a very little occasion. It doesn't, it's not the actual happening, it's what it's done to us, the result of it. And by looking at it bit by bit and saying, right, well, all that energy is from something that happened here. How much of it do I want to carry forward with me? And you undo it like that. But I really firmly believe in helping yourself, as in going and studying something that finds you comfortable. Before I come on these meetings, for instance, I do a round of tapping because my nervous system is up here. I'm anxious like this before I start. But I know that physically, if I'm anxious like this before I start, you lot don't stand a chance. Do you see? But I know it's my thought processes and my body's doing this, going, oh my God, you're going to face these people. So I allow all that and say, yeah, I respect that. I breathe, because that's one of the most important things you can do, is breathe it out, and then let this come in. But I tap it out because the nervous system is where it's vibrating. Yeah. The energy code, Brad Nelson has an energy code using a magnet. Again, you bring it up. But one of the wonderful things about it is that you're giving yourself attention. Whatever system you're using, you're being gentle and kind on yourself. One thing that we haven't been very often is gentle and kind on ourselves.
Wonderful, wonderful, absolutely wonderful, Wendy. I'm just going to stop